After taking down Devin Haney last week, Ryan Garcia is now under fire after testing positive for performance enhancing drugs. And who are the winners and the losers of the 2024 NFL Draft, and what the heck is going on in Boulder, Colorado? That's all next on this week's episode of The Fumble.
Welcome to The Fumble. I'm Rodney Rakai. Got my co-host Samaria Terry in the building. Samaria, I left Juve to be here just to talk with you today, so you should know that you are very important and special in my life.
Okay, first of all, where are you at? Because I'm real jealous.
I'm in a little situation. I'm in St. Thomas. It's carnival going on out here. You know, I'm talking about big island things. You know what I mean? Wagwan. So it's an experience. And I was so glad that I could break away from all the partying and turning up and alcohol to be here with you.
Well, please be safe.
Always in favor. Let's get into the first story of the week.
Yeah, so last week I asked for things no longer bliss in Boulder. That was after two Colorado players hit the transfer portal. Now this week, another player, Xavier Smith, told The Athletic about his experience as a Buffalo. So according to Smith, Coach Prime told him to enter the transfer portal. And when he didn't, Sanders made him feel quote unquote like an extra in the background of a reality TV show. Smith also believes that Coach Prime is destroying guys' confidence. Prime and his son Shedeur had time on Twitter. Shedeur responded to the Athletic article saying, "I don't even remember him, to be honest. Bro had to be mid at best." Now, someone then tweeted at Deion Sanders to tell his son to stop acting like the coldest out here when he put up a 4-8 season last year. Prime says Shedeur will be a top 5 pick in the draft next season. How did Coach Prime and the Buffaloes go from the most loved to the most hated?
Well, it's very easy. When you talk this much, people are going to have an issue with you one way or another. I said last week, I think it might be an incredibly challenging thing for young men who are still developing their frontal lobe to deal with a coach who is week in and week out willing to offer them an opportunity to leave the program. Deion does it consistently since he arrived at Buffalo. He's always willing to find new players that fit his schemes, that fit his expectations. And if you're not meeting his expectations, then you out of there. And I kind of respect it, but again, I empathize with the players a little bit because this is a very critical time in these young men's lives.
Yeah, I was going to say that because we emphasize mental health so much right now in society. And then you have a guy come out and say, like, look, you kind of hurt my feelings. And like, listen, I've gone to therapy. That is big to do. You got to tell people when they hurt your feelings, okay? But like you said, they got to stop talking. You went 4-8 last season. All eyes right now are on this program. They are literally the most hated duo in college football.
I think it's hard for a player or a former player of Deion's magnitude to wrestle with the idea of someone not wanting it as bad as he once did or doesn't work as hard as he once did. I think that his expectations are predicated on his own personal experiences, and we're in a new day and age, similar to how Nick Saban, may have struggled to acquiesce to the new modern athlete, the same way that Bill Belichick may have struggled to find a way to connect with newer athletes. I think that Deion is finding a little bit of a challenge in Boulder to connect with athletes who sound like they want to be like him, but ultimately their work ethic and their habits just don't really resonate with what he's accustomed to.
Yeah, and I don't even think that Deion is like getting the attention. It's really Shedeur. Like, you're the captain of this team. You're the leader of this team. Just be quiet. I know that he got on Twitter and said that he was protecting his dad, but this does not look good. Like, it's going to be real interesting to see your pre-draft process next year because people are going to be asking you about it.
This is the tricky part about playing for your father. When people take shots at your coach, it's so much more personal, right? It's just like, how can I not stand up for my father? But I don't think that Shedeur is exhibiting any behavior that's any different than even a Caleb Williams, right? Caleb looks very comfortable in his own skin. He looks very
but Caleb did not tell somebody he was mid at best. That I don't even remember you on the same team.
Come on, the same team is crazy. I tried.
No.
I was trying to shoot some bail. Respect. You called me out. You know what? I concede. I bow down. You're right. 1,000%. He's tripping. They tripping. Yeah. Let us know your thoughts on Shedeur and Deion if they're doing way too much on social media. All right. In the aftermath of his absolute destruction of Devin Haney in their April bout, Ryan Garcia has reportedly tested positive for a banned PED substance called Ostarine. The substance is said to attach to proteins in the body and encourages muscle growth. Garcia now has 10 days to ask for another test run on a secondary sample of his blood. Now, Samaria, when you sign up for a bout and you agree to terms, then you obviously cannot use PEDs if that is what you agreed to. So we don't have to discuss Ryan Garcia per se, but I do want to know, how do you feel about PEDs being incorporated into professional sports? What are your thoughts?
No, Roddy, they don't have a place in professional sports. I think you have to keep that boundary in place because, okay, say for instance, you say, yeah, you can take PEDs, but then what's the limit? How much can you take? What if there's no limit? It's just too many questions. I think you have to keep it an even playing field because now you just opened up a can of worms and it's just, I don't think it'll be fair after that.
Okay, well, I kind of disagree with you, respectfully, of course.
Okay.
I think that we regulate alcohol consumption, right? There, you can drink you can drive after having an alcoholic beverage, correct? Right? Up to a point. You got a limit, and if you cross that limit, then you're guilty of certain criminalities, right? When it comes to PEDs for professional athletes, from a recovery standpoint, I think it is imperative for these people who are putting their bodies through the rigor day in and day out to have something a little bit more enhanced than just a cold tub and a steam room to aid them in their recovery. These are entertainers at the end of the day, right? We want to make sure that they are operating at the optimal level. And if PEDs can help them do that, and I'm all on board for them being incorporated as long as we have some sort of regulatory system in place. Just like we do, like marijuana is now illegal in most sports, right? Of course, alcohol consumption, and we're now getting into a place where even psilocybin and mushrooms, psychedelics are being incorporated into mental health. So this is just a natural evolution of medicine, and I think there's some really great benefits for PEDs to be incorporated into professional sports, my opinion. Look at that fate.
Okay, so if I get this right, you are more focused on the aftermath or the effects of these sports on the athletes, like the rehab. Like that's what you think that these are better for.
Yes, I want 1,000%.
What if it's giving them an edge in the actual event?
Then
that's where I'm kind of conflicted.
Well, but why are we not encouraging athletes to listen? The old saying is, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, right? So there's always going to be somebody doing something to try to create a competitive advantage. That's just the nature of sports, right? Like whether it's we studying your plays from a drone camera, whatever it is, like there's always going to be somebody who's trying to get a competitive advantage. I think that PEDs, from a performance standpoint, allow athletes to operate at their optimal level, and I just think that it's an entertainment. It's an entertainment platform, right? So when we see movies, when we see blockbuster films, we want to see the biggest explosions. We want to see the biggest car ramps and car jumps. You know what I mean? So if these are entertainers and we are locked in on the idea of them being entertainers, then we got to do whatever it takes for them to be the ultimate entertainment performers. And that's just where I stand.
Well, I'm going to have to disagree with you respectfully. I think it's going to open a can of worms and people are going to be crazy. But you all let us know what you think in the comments.
No, hold on. Before y'all let us know, baseball, right? With Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa, we're hitting home runs out of the ballpark every single year. Baseball was so entertaining.
But it wasn't fair.
What is fair? Fair is where you judge horses. Come on, Samaria. I'm sorry. That was the last thing I had to say. Now, please, by all means, you take it away. Let the people know what they should drop in the comment box.
Y'all should agree with me in the comments. All right, so let's switch gears to the NFL draft, which was last week. And boy, did we have some winners and some losers. Quarterbacks were the first three off the board. Caleb Williams, of course, going number 1 overall to the Chicago Bears, followed by Heisman Trophy winner Jayden Daniels to the Washington Commanders. And then you had Drake May going to the Patriots. So a defensive player was actually not called until the 15th pick in Laiatu Latu out of UCLA to the Indianapolis Colts. That was an NFL record, by the way. So Rodney, 32 teams, 257 picks. Which franchise had the best class?
I think for the NFL, the Chiefs had the best draft, right? They drafted a receiver who is on record faster than Tyreek Hill. You've been looking for a way to replenish that receiver room in Kansas City, and I think they hit the ball out of the park. The Steelers drafted very Steelers right. The Steelers, like, they had Troy Fontanu. The Rams did a really good job shoring up their D line as well. So got to shout out the Rams. I live in LA.
I told you Malik Neighbors.
Yeah, but who the hell is throwing him the ball? The Duke quarterback?
But I just told you that's where they were going.
Okay, from that standpoint, you were correct. I'm very disappointed in the Giants draft as a whole. I thought that we just not drafting a quarterback was just terrible. But I don't want to talk about the Giants because we're trash. So from your lens, because you are the professional when it comes to NFL, what teams do you feel like had the best draft?
I mean, okay, the Chiefs, when you put it that way, I like that. But I'm going to go Chargers. Because I felt like Jim Harbaugh came in, he got the best offensive tackle in the draft. Dude is like 6'7", 322 pounds. He comes from a family of pro athletes. He is the most pro-ready prospect in the draft, Joe Alt. Okay. Ooh, okay. Then they also got Ladd McConkey out of Georgia. He didn't really get a whole lot of exposure last season because of Brock Bowers, but dude is explosive. I like him. And then they got Junior Colson out of Michigan, who's following Harbaugh to LA. Okay. He's a linebacker. I thought he was one of the best in his position.
Let me ask you, what did you think about the Atlanta Falcons taking Penix?
Okay, so the Atlanta Falcons was my loser by far.
Really?
Now, I'm not going to say, I wouldn't say that them getting Michael Penix Jr. at number 8 was a terrible pick. I like Penix. But it was like that meme. I'm like,
Yeah, like,
well,
why?
Boy scratching his head, because why did you do that when you just gave Kirk Cousins a $180 million contract? And what I really hate the most, and I know people don't like when we get woke on here, what I hate is that the Falcons have a black general manager in Terry Fontenot. And I don't know if he hasn't been doing well.
Okay, so there's like,
and I don't want that to be his legacy.
There's cultural moves. There are moves that affect winning and losing, right? And I think that this was a cultural move by the Atlanta Falcons, having that young black man on the sidelines. And I don't want to make it racial, but I do feel like because of the culture that Michael Vick nurtured in Atlanta, I think the idea of having a young black prospect at quarterback waiting in the wings is really enticing to the Atlanta fan base. And so there may have been somewhat of a cultural decision in drafting Penix. I didn't understand it either, but
no, I can see that. Because that's what Fontenot said. He said that he didn't believe that they would draft that high. He thinks that they're going to be winning. And I'm like, okay. So he's like, we have the 8th overall pick, and so we're going to get the best player on the board. And they felt like that was Michael Penix Jr.
And we all know that Kirk Cousins is liable to miss a large chunk of the season at any given point anyway. He might not even be able to start the season out and playing because of his injury he sustained last year. So maybe there's a chance for Penix to see the field early on. And you never know. Maybe it'll be like Jamie Foxx and Cap in damn, what's the name of that movie? I'm tripping. That's my favorite movie. That's one of my favorite football movies. Any Given Sunday. I'm tripping. That was
yes.
Maybe it'll be like Jamie and Cap.
But Penix also is older. He's slick elderly, and
he is
low key. Knees.
He is low key my age.
Did you see that picture? Did you see that picture with him? He has he's in a wheelchair and he has both of his knees done. So yeah, he could be a liability too.
Yeah, let us know if you are a Falcons fan or a Falcons hater, whether or not you agree with the Falcons pick of Michael Penix Jr., 8th overall in this year's draft.
So from time to time, we will be highlighting comments left under our videos or social media pages that we feel may need a direct response from us. So leave a comment for us and you may end up getting a response. This week, we got to address a comment about the fumble of last week going to mainstream media and the Jokic brothers. The comment comes from @Dragon Markovich 491. So he says that Jokic never waved his gun around like Ja, for example, but that is also why Ja has a much bigger sponsorship deals than Jokic, even though their basketball success is inoperable. Jokic is not an American superstar. He's just the best basketball player in the world. Rodney, what is he talking about?
You know what? That's a really good comment, and it does create a little bit of
Oh,
controversy
really?
and hypocrisy in my head a little bit. Here's the thing, though: like when you are successful in the NBA, like the byproduct of you having a great amount of success and the amount of success that Jokic has is a level of superstardom. You cannot exist in the space of obscurity when you have success at the level that Jokic is. If you do not want to be a participant in the media optics of the NBA, then go raise your horses. I don't want to hear excuses just because you don't desire to be the face of the league or you don't desire to be accessible. I don't care anything about that. If your brothers are exhibiting poor behavior, we are going to call them out. I'm extremely annoyed by the idea that a player who was able to monetize his abilities the way that Jokic is, of not being able to have the same level of scrutiny as Ja Morant. I don't vibe with that, regardless of what their sponsorship deals look like.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree. Like I mentioned last week, I don't even remember. I think the guy's name is Devonte Pack. That is Ja's
Ja's best
childhood
friend.
friend. And when I tell you every article written about Ja, his name is mentioned in there, in things that he's done in the past and whatever. And so, all we're asking for is for us to just mention Jokic's brother and what he's done. We're not even trying to really badmouth Nikola. We're just saying like we need to do a better job at saying this is what happened and it's really unacceptable.
Yeah.
And he kind of needs to go sit down somewhere,
Yeah, again,
just like we did with Ja and Devontae.
so like I said last week, this is not just about Jokic. This is about the coverage, the difference in coverage between black athletes and non-black athletes. Talking about Josh Giddey, I can refer to Andy Reid's son, right, the Kansas City Chiefs coach, right, his DUIs and DWIs. So I feel like it's extremely annoying to me and frustrating to me that Nikola Jokic is able to slide by having members of his entourage and family members exhibit poor behavior. He's in every single commercial during the NBA playoffs, fam. Like, you can't tell me that he's not an NBA superstar. He's just the best player in the world. With every commercial that's running during the NBA playoffs is featuring him, and that's just what it is. Like, he has now ascended beyond just being a phenomenal basketball player. He is one of the faces of the league, and now that means that people that are around him have to behave and move a little bit differently. That's just what comes with it. Sorry, fam.
Yes.
That's that heavy is the head that wears the crown. Fumble of the week this week is a two-piece combo. First up is Darvin Pockets Ham, who has the superpower of not being able to read a room to save his life, or season for that matter. In Game 5 of the Lakers versus Nuggets, the Lakers played extremely well. They had a sizable lead, but we all knew eventually that the Nuggets run was going to come. Well, all of us except for Hamhead. Even Reggie Miller asked, why is Darvin not calling a timeout? And it wasn't until the run reached 14-5 and all momentum had fully shifted that Ham called a stop in the action, but the damage had already been done. Over and over again this season, Ham has rolled out questionable lineups and at times looked like he didn't even know how a clipboard was supposed to work. And in a recent report from Shams Charania, the Lakers actually began tuning Ham out way back in February. So Ham gets the fumble of the week this week for not doing enough to help LeBron James flourish in his 21st season of absolute dominance. But Ham is not alone in holding that fumble on the mantle. The Phoenix Suns, as a staff record label and an MF and crew, also share the fumble crown. Getting swept out of the playoffs with the most expensive roster in basketball is absolutely embarrassing, even if you lost to Baby Jordan and Ant Edwards. Now, the Suns entered an offseason in which they are likely to be handcuffed by their salary cap and Bradley Beal's no-trade clause, and they have a roster with all sorts of holes and not nearly enough chewing gum to plug any of them. A couple of years ago, it felt like the window for the Suns was wide open, and now it seems like they won't even be able to sniff that good old outside air from the basement of the Western Conference. So, Darvin Hamhead, Phoenix Suns, fumble of the week. Samaria, what are your thoughts?
You remember last week we were talking about the Lakers series, and I said it will be really interesting to see what the roster looks like next season. That was the staff too, buddy.
Oh, okay.
Listen,
Okay.
I mean, on TNT, Charles Barkley said that it wasn't Darvin Ham's fault, nor was it Frank Vogel's fault. He says it's the players. He says that Darvin Ham and Frank Vogel are really great coaches. And it's really the players not stepping up. They're not playing to their best ability. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Darvin Ham has a track record that lets us know what kind of coach he actually is. This is his first head coaching job in the NBA. So we don't really know how great, good, or average or subpar he is. What I do know is that when your team is facing a juggernaut, right, and they're playing in high altitude, and that means that their breath is going to be short, right? I think that you would do your team quite a bit of service to call a timeout, especially when your best player is as old as LeBron is. At the very least, to just give him some sort of rest. All season long, Darvin Ham has refused to call timeouts in the midst of other teams going on catastrophic runs to the Lakers. He is not Phil Jackson, right? This is not a Jedi mind trick sort of, I'm going to let you guys play through it. This is someone who is incapable of reading the temperament of what's going on in an NBA basketball game. And LeBron James deserves a coach who is able to manage not just the roster, but timeouts in the midst of him trying to find an opportunity to win his 5th ring to, at the very least, close the gap between him and, I'm going to say, Kobe and/or Michael Jordan.
Listen, Rodney, you are the basketball king, so whatever you say, I'm here with you. But the Lakers will look a lot different next year. That's what I think.
And it's not just about what I say. I want to know what you all out there have to say. Do you feel like Darvin Ham is deserving of our Fumble of the Week next week and ultimately of losing his job? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.
Yeah, that is all that we have this week. Thank you for joining us for another episode of The Fumble. Make sure to subscribe to The Fumble and at The Fumble Sports on our social media platforms. Of course, we deliver the latest in sports every day on our YouTube page with Jackie Ray and every Friday right here at The Fumble with myself and Rodney Rakai.